Hello guys, this is your friend Naruto Fanfics 2.0 and we are back with a new fanfic. What if Naruto was betrayed by his family in abandoned Konoha? Part 1. And if you enjoyed this fanfic then please like and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. Now let's start the fanfic. Konoha is a very pretty place, especially at night. The entire city is surrounded by tall oak trees created by the founder, Hashirama Senju, or the Shodai Hokage with the Mokuton, giving the village the name Konohagakure. This village had produced great and powerful shinobi, from the powerful Sannin, to the Sendaime Hokage, Hiruzen Sarutobi. However, the most famous of all of the heroes of Konoha is none other than the Konoha no Kiro Senko, or the Yondaime Hokage, a man who had single-handedly destroyed armies of invading shinobi in seconds during the Third Shinobi World War. But his greatest accomplishment was one that cost him his own life. The defeat of the Kyuubi no Yoko on October 10th. While many know it is fact that the Kyuubi was defeated by the Yondaime, few know that to defeat the Demon Fox, he had to use the Shikifuin, a seal which by using the powers of the Shinigami himself to seal away another for eternity. On that fateful night, the Yondaime not only sealed half of the beast inside himself, but also the other half into the newborn baby, Naruto. The Yondaime knew that the Shinigami could only seal half of the demonic being, so with his last breath, he sealed the rest of the beast's Yang Chakra into the boy. His wish was for the boy to be seen as a hero, and as his legacy, to stand for all the people that gave their lives on that fateful day. Why? This brings us to the present, 6 years after the Kyuubi attack, where a young boy with spiky blonde hair, bright blue eyes, and 3 whisker marks on each cheek, was running for his life from an angry mob of villagers. Needless to say the Forza wish had gone unheeded as many of the villagers and ninja pleaded for the boy's execution, believing that he was the Kyuubi in human form. The only thing that had kept them at bay was the reinstated Sendaime Hokage, who soon after the boy's status was released issued AL stating that those who were old enough to remember the Kyuubi attack were never to speak of it on penalty of death. While this stopped the populace from outright demanding the child's death, they soon found ways of going around the rule, by blacklisting him from shops and restaurants, forbidding their children from socializing with him, and the weekly beating, that with the help of the civilian court, went mostly unpunished. In Naruto's opinion, October 10th, his birthday, was the worst of all the days in the year combined. The day of the festival was the day the Ambu were too preoccupied to watch over him, and for some reason the villagers' hate was higher than normal. These were the days he was normally sent to the hospital for more than a week. Why? Thought the abused child as he ran down an alley with the mob close behind him. There he is, screamed a woman with pink hair. Time to finish what our beloved Hokage started. She raised her fist causing the crowd to yell in approval. No, I can't get caught again, thought the blonde as he took another left, quickly realizing that it was a dead end. Shit. The crowd circled around him with knives, rocks, anything that could do damage and began their assault. Naruto, long ago had come up with ways to cope with the pain of being hated for something he did not even know by smiling, playing pranks, and basically putting on the mask of the Baka, but tonight, the pain felt especially worse, and as he looked up to the faces of his attackers, he was able to shout the words, "Why do you hate me? Because you're a demon, that's why," yelled one of the villagers with unmasked hatred. "You are the reason my daughter's dead. But now I am finally going to get revenge." The man then took out a large kitchen knife and stabbed it through Naruto's chest as the crowd cheered in approval. As Naruto felt the warm liquid fall down his body, he collapsed and was about to ask again when he felt a heat coming at his back. He looked but was too late as a medium-sized fireball engulfed him in red embers. Naruto's screams of pain only seemed to excite the villagers as they cheered on the Chunin, who had fired off a Gokakyo no Jutsu at the defenseless child. Naruto could feel that he was in a lot more pain than normal. From what he could tell, he had a broken arm, a punctured lung, and a couple of broken ribs, not to mention the 1st and 2nd degree burns he had all over his body. With bloody tears in his eyes, he slowly drifted to unconsciousness. As a villager tried to deliver a finishing blow, the pink-haired leader stopped him. "No, we can't kill him, even though he deserves to die. We can't be assumed as the killers. It has to die on its own." She looked down at the bloody heap of the demon, before pointing at two Chunin. You too take the child away from the village and leave him. Then remove any trace you have on you of this deed in return. Quote, the two ninja nodded before grabbing the child and leaving in a puff of smoke. The woman then turned to the rest of the mob, the rest of you return to your homes and rejoice, tonight we celebrate the true death of the QB. Bored, 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 bored. These were the thoughts of a young man walking through the land of Hai no Kuni. The man was around 6'1" in his late 20s. He had toned skin with wild uncombed brown hair. His face was jagged with stubble and his eyes were a dull hazel. His attire was composed of a pair of standard shinobi pants with a matching Jordan vest, tan boots, fingerless gloves with metal guards, and to top it all off, a red and white coat with the kanji for fox on the back. This man was Reki Samayu, member of the Kumo no Sansoku. Why did I have to walk through Hai no Honey to get to you? I could have easily just taken a ferry from Taki. I could have stayed another night and found some entertainment, complained Reki as he trudged through the unending sea of trees. He looked up at the night sky. Well, at least it is a nice night, he thought with a smile. He had always loved nature, even before he became a ninja. He took in the smells of the forest. He loved the smell of the bark, the dew, the flowers, He paused, dried blood. Instantly he was on the alert. Highly trained calculative eyes darted from left to right as he surveyed his surroundings while he pinpointed the smell's location. As soon as he had located the source of the smell, he moved silently over to the clearing, but what he saw caused his eyes to widen in horror and shock. Before him was a boy no older than 5 or 6, crucified to 2 pieces of wood with dried blood and burns covering his skin. The boy's hair was a dirty blonde which had bits and pieces burned off, while his clothes were nothing but shreds of burnt cloth. But the most defined feature was the 3 whisker marks on his cheeks. Kami, what the hell happened here? As he rushed towards the unconscious boy, without wasting a moment's hesitation, he removed the boy from the cross and began to work. You could never really be a good ninja if you did not know how to heal yourself. As Reki examined the boy, he felt that something was wrong. From the damage it looks like this boy took, it should be a lot worse, he shouldn't even be alive. Reki scowled at the thought of what had happened to this child and decided that it would be beneficial to take the kid away from the area. After all, waking up in a place surrounded by your own blood is not a pleasant experience. To throw off any tracker, Reki placed some false tracks, looking as if wild animals found him and used him as a welcome snack. If this is any indication, doesn't look like the boy is very wanted where he is from. It would be better if they thought he was dead, thought Reki as he finished the false tracks. He then picked up the boy and jumped into the trees. Reki was confused for the umpteenth time that night as he looked at the bandaged sleeping child by the fire. When Reki had arrived at his present location, from his examination the boy had second-degree burns all over his skin, a couple of broken ribs and a shattered foot. Now 2 hours after, the burns had all but subsided, his ribs were completely repaired and his foot was slowly healing itself. Even the boy's hair had grown back to replace the burn spots and all Reki had done was clean and bandage the wounds. This all screamed one word through the young man's mind, Jinchuriki. That would explain the beating and why it had happened, but the question was which one. From intel he knew that Taki had won, but they were too far away. The 2 in Kiri were much older, and the Ichibi Jinchuriki would not let others even touch his container. Reki looked at the boy once again, hoping that he could get even the slightest piece of information. But sadly, he was at a loss. He looked up at the night sky for a moment before unsealing some fish he had caught earlier that day. Well, sighed Reki as he prepared the fish, he probably won't want to talk on an empty stomach. Quote, the first thing that awoke Naruto was the smell of something delicious. He creaked open his eyes and was surprised to find he was not in the normal hospital room he would normally wake up to after a beating. While surveying the area, his eyes soon passed over a young man wearing a red and white coat leaning over a small campfire. This only served to scare Naruto even more. Where was Gigi? What had happened? Was he in the village anymore? What was that heavenly smell? It was at that moment the man looked straight into Naruto's eyes. They did not have the hatred that most eyes of the villagers had. They had a warm glow that seemed show kindness and warmth, more like Gigi's or the Ichiraku's. That said man then picked up a cooked fish and tried to give it to Naruto. You know it would be easier to heal if you had something in your stomach, he said with a smile. Naruto did nothing but stare at the fish, causing the man to pout. Come on, it won't kill you. Look, he then proceeded to take a bite out of said fish. Gathering his courage, Naruto slowly reached out and grabbed the fish. He took a deep breath, and then took a huge bite. Well, if it is poisoned, I might as well not die hungry too. His eyes widened after the first bite and he screamed, "This is great!" and proceeded to devour the fish. Reki chuckled at the boy's hunger, watching as he ate like he hadn't in weeks. Probably hasn't, spoke a voice in his head which caused him to frown. When the boy had finished eating 3 fish, he finally looked at the man and said, "I know, but who are you?" Reki smirked and said, "Sumiyu Reki," with a hint of pride, "and who might you be?" The boy gave him a fox-like grin and said, "Uzumaki Naruto of Konoha, and future ninja." The boy's last name caused Reki's eyes to widen. Uzumaki. Could this kid be related to the Akai Chishio no Habanero? He had had the unpleasant privilege of meeting the woman in battle. She was with no doubt a powerful shinobi, and had sent him home with a broken arm. Something not very common when you are considered to be one of the top ninja in the village. He took the time to examine the boy again. While the boy's supposed mother had been a red-haired, fair-skinned woman, this boy looked nothing like her in the sorts. The boy had tan skin, blonde hair, and bright blue eyes. This caused Reki's eyebrow to rise. There were not that many people with blue eyes in this world. The only blonde-haired, blue-eyed person that he knew of that had come out of Konoha was the Yondaime Hokage. How could he have not seen it before? This boy was basically a chibi version of him. If the Habanero and the Konoha no Kirosenko had had a child, he would be the most powerful ninja in the world. Also with his Junchuriki status, no man in his right mind would want to mess with him. But this raised another question. If he was the son of the so-called hero of Konoha, then why was he hated? Obviously the Yondaime had kept his child's birth a secret. If Iwa had known, they would have sent an entire army to kill the kid. This means that the hatred of the kid had to be because of his Jinchuriki status, with the only Biju for Konoha to ever hold, the Koibi no Yoko. "Reki-san, Reki-san, Reki-san," screamed Naruto as he had watched the man stare into space for close to a minute, which for him was almost an eternity. Shaken out of his stupor, Reki replied. He then gave a sheepish grin and said, "Sorry, must have been thinking too hard." Naruto gave him a mock glare, then looked around and asked, "Where am I and how did I get here?" Reki adopted a sad look while he poked the fire with a stick. "I found you out here, beaten to a pulp, then crucified to a stake." Naruto looked down to his feet with a shadow over his eye. "Oh," he shakily replied. Reki knew that he should not ask, but he had to know. Does this happen a lot?" It was silent for a few moments before he said in a quiet voice, "Yes, but I am getting used to it." This caused Reki to subconsciously grit his teeth and ball his fists. No child should get used to being hated and hurt. "Don't you have a guardian or something to watch over you?" said Reki, trying to keep the edge out of his voice. Naruto just shook his head. "No, I know that Hokage Jiji and the Ichirakas care for me, but there is little that they can do with Jiji in the office and Ichirakas in business. The Ambu Jiji has that watch may sometimes help, but they only come to stop the fatal attacks, then leave." Reki was boiling with rage. No one, especially a child, should have to deal with this. He was prepared to go to Konoha right now and massacre the entire populace. But the worst part is, Reki stopped his planning on killing everyone in Konoha to look at the boy, and when he saw his tears, all the rage dissipated. "I don't even know why," said Naruto as tears began to fall down his face. "They blame me for killing people I don't remember, doing things that I don't know. They blame me and call me a demon for things I wish I knew. If I did know, I would apologize, but when I asked Jiji, he would avoid the question, and when I asked the mob, they just call me a demon and hit me harder." Reki looked at the almost broken child in front of him. A child who had seen things that others' nightmares could not hold a candle to. He knew he had to help. He would not let this kid go back to that. He gained an impassive look on his face and spoke in a smooth, soft voice, "Do you want to know why?" Quote, Immediately Naruto's head was up with a look of shock on his face. Why you know, and you'll tell me, said Naruto, the tears beginning to fall again. Reki nodded his head, only if you want to know. Naruto pondered the question for a long minute before nodding for Reki to continue. What do you know about the Kyuubi? Asked Reki. Not much other than it was killed by the Yondaime, said Naruto as he tilted his head in confusion. Reki shook his head. No one can kill a tailed beast, Naruto, since they are just large masses of chakra, and no one can kill chakra. The only way to defeat a Biju is to seal it. Naruto's eyes widened in realization as Reki continued. The Yondaime used a special sealing technique to seal away the Kyuubi into a living vessel, a vessel whose chakra pathways are still developing, in other words. Me, Naruto stuttered, but then looked down and said with a broken voice, I guess I really am a demon, only to be slapped upside the head by Reki. Never say that again, said Reki with a steel gaze. I may not have known you for a long time, but from what I can see, you are not a giant, bloodthirsty, chakra beast. You are Uzumaki Naruto, a young boy who has been hated for absolutely no good reason. Quote, Naruto stared at Reki for what seemed like hours, before a small genuine smile, one which not even Gigi or the Ichirakas had seen, appeared on his face. Thank you, he said, before tackling Reki into a hug. He was surprised at first when the kid had hugged him, but he soon shook it off and hugged him back. Now, said Reki as he put Naruto back down and patted the dirt off his coat. I am going to make you a once-in-a-lifetime offer, kid, Reki said with a grin. How would you like to be a ninja? Quote, Naruto's eyes widened to the size of dinner plates. All his life he had wanted to be a ninja, to gain the respect and love of the village. But if I go and train with Reki-san, I won't be a ninja for Konoha, thought Naruto, which caused him to frown. But would he really want to be in charge of protecting the people who hurt him, even if he would put everything on the line to save Gigi or the Ichirakas? Would he do it to save the rest of the villagers? Naruto thought of what Gigi would tell him if he was also here. The words, do what will make you happy, came to mind, and he would surely be a lot happier training to be a ninja away from all of the hatred. Naruto closed his eyes before opening with a new determined look. Hey, I will go with you, Reki-sensei. Mama, said Reki, putting his hands up in defense. I'm not all for that respect stuff, kid. Reki will just be fine. Hey Reki, said Naruto as he gave his new teacher a fox grin. Reki smiled at this, the look to the stars. Well kid, you better get some rest. Tomorrow we leave this forsaken land and start your path to becoming one shinobi of Kumo. Quote, Naruto nodded before moving back to the sleeping bag, falling asleep almost instantly. Reki smiled at the sleeping kid before moving his gaze towards Konoha. Today marks the day that Konohagakure fell as the strongest of the elemental nation. You will soon know the great treasure you have lost, when your shinobi cringe in fear when the name, Naruto, is spoken. Remember this day, Konoha, for this is the day that Namikaze Uzumaki Naruto began his rise towards greatness. Quote, it had been 2 days since the festival in Hiruzen Starobi, Sendaime of Konoha, was in his office filling out a seemingly endless pile of paperwork. Why do I need to sign off about what kind of dog food the Inuzuka clan feeds their dogs with? But this was not the reason he was upset. He had not been able to go see Naruto for his birthday. He had even gotten him an orange jacket as a gift. He was not worried about the boy. Naruto had made him a promise that he would not leave his apartment all day for his birthday, because he knew that was when the villagers were at their worst. Sarutobi frowned at the mention of the villagers. They had never liked the boy and along with the civilian council had tried to make Naruto's life a living hell. Sarutobi still remembered the rage he felt when he found out that Naruto had been kicked out of the orphanage and had been living on the street for a year. The Shinobi Council was mixed on the subject of Naruto, while the Inuzuka, Akimichi, Nara, Aburam, and Yamanaka clan tried on many occasions to make Naruto's life a bit better, even soon tried to adopt him. The elders, Homura Mitokado and Koharu Utatane, along with help from the Hyuga, Uchiha, and the civilian council stopped them and tried to place Naruto under execution for false charges. Danzo seemed to have his own agenda, always throwing in the idea of Naruto being used as a weapon for Konoha, or in reality, a weapon for Danzo. Hiruzen scowled. The day that he gets Naruto is the day that Kakashi and Jiraiya give up on. Deciding that his work was done for the day, Hiruzen walked out of his office to go visit his favorite blonde adopted grandson. As Sarutobi walked through the streets, he got nods of respect, which he politely returned, smiling and waving at the children who walked by. As he neared Naruto's apartment, he spied the new graffiti of "Die Demon" and other messages painted on the wall. Hiruzen sighed and continued to walk up the stairs of the apartment complex, mentally filling to place AD rank mission to clean up the mess. As he opened the door to the Naruto's apartment, he found that it was unlocked, not surprising because Naruto never locked his door. He peered around the room and found that no one was here. He sighed. Naruto must be off doing one of his pranks. The room itself was quite small, the paint was peeling off, and the floor was covered with dirty clothes. His eyes stopped when he looked on the table, before slowly widening with horror. On the table was a knocked-over cup of cooked ramen. This was bad. Naruto and uneaten ramen were two things that would never be together unless something truly horrible had happened. Sarutobi's mind instantly went into gear as he searched for any type of trail. When he found one leading out of the apartment, he was off. He followed the tracks down the twists and turns of the alleyways until a familiar stench reached his nose, the stench of blood. As Hiruzen turned the corner, he was greeted with the sight of an alleyway completely covered in dry blood. He quickly surveyed the site, finding lots of ash under a dumpster near the scene. Was a cotton just used on Naruto. He then found some barely visible tracks of Naruto leaving the area. So some of my own shinobi were a part of this hum. They must have been chunin from how well they covered the tracks. But they did not suspect that I myself would be following the trail. Sarutobi pulsed his chakra and 3 Ambu quickly appeared by his side. What do you need, Hokage-sama? Said one with a Neko mask. Neko, come with me to follow these tracks. Uma and Taka, go find a medic, I think we will be needing one. Said the Hokage before jumping off in the direction of the tracks with Neko close behind. Please be alright, Naruto-kun, prayed Hiruzen as he jumped through the trees. After about 2 hours of tracking, the Hokage and his guard reached a handmade cross with dry blood on it. Hiruzen paled. The blood looked to be a couple of days old while the ropes looked as if they had been ripped off by a wild animal. The animal tracks then proceeded to go deeper into the forest to devour its prey. Hokage-sama, Neko said, these tracks are a couple of days old. Even if Naruto-san could have survived, and he would have been dead by now. I am truly sorry. Hiruzen looked down to the ground with a grievous look before saying, that is fine, Neko. When we return to the village, I want you to gather Yungi Kurenai, Hatake Kakashi, and Matogai and tell them to come to my office. Neko nodded before the team of 2 started their long trip back to the village. Naruto, thought Hiruzen, I have not only failed you, but your father as well. This was odd, thought Kakashi as he pondered the Hokage's reasons for having him come to his office. It could not be a mission because he himself had ordered Kakashi to take a break. After Minato-sensei and his child had died, Kakashi had thrown himself completely into his own work, to stop the painful tug of loneliness from returning. Kakashi had been one of the few besides the Sendaiman Jiraiya to know of the child's birth. He had had so many dreams of watching over the child like his sensei had after Kakashi's own father had killed himself. He did however follow his late teacher's final words to treat the boy with respect, even if it was hard for him to watch over the boy due to his continuous Ambu missions, had even protected the child from drunks and mobs before he could get hurt. As he entered the Hokage's waiting room, he spotted Matogai, his eternal rival, and Yungi Kurenai, a seasoned chunin. Both along with Sarutobi Asuma, who was currently part of the Shogunin Juneshi, had been part of Team Uzumaki under Kushina Uzumaki. Both her and Minato's teams had begun to train and do missions together when Minato and Kushina had started their secret relationship. Kurenai had often teased that Minato had a thing for Kushina, which everyone had quickly disregarded. That was until they caught them making out at the training grounds. After looking around, he nodded a hello, then pulled out his famous Icha Icha and, much to Kurenai's ire, began to giggle pervishly. However, his fun was short-lived when the secretary appeared, informing them that the Hokage would see them now. When they entered the office, they were shocked to find that the normal Anyong no Kami, whose power was known throughout the 5 nations, was replaced with a sad and tired-looking old man. Guy was the first to regain his composure and responded in his usual tone, "Greetings Hokage-sama, what youthful task do you have for me and my youthful comrades?" The Hokage shut his eyes for a moment before opening them and responding, "Guy, there is no task you must be doing or will do. I have asked you here to talk to you three of a matter of great importance." Kakashi raised his only visible eyebrow at this before asking, "How great of importance?" "SS rank," spoke the aged Cage curtly. The three shinobi instantly stiffened up as Guy adopted his serious face and Kakashi put away his precious Icha. The Hokage nodded before sending his Ambu out of the office, and activating a silencing seal. He then began to say, "Now I must start with saying that I have not been completely truthful to you these past years." The Cage as he stood up from his chair, turning to look out the window. "6 years ago when you asked if the child of Uzumaki Kushina and Minato Namika survived, I admit I lied to why. Oh, you about his death." The two Jonin and one Chunan's eyes widened. "Sensei's son survived," thought Kakashi with a mix of happiness and regret. Happiness for having the chance to repay his teacher, while regret for not being able to help the child earlier. "Anno Hokage-sama," said Kurenai, who was still in a state of shock upon the revelation, "but who is the child?" Hiruzen gave her a somber smile. "His name was Uzumaki Naruto, but you might know him better by what the villagers call him, the Demon of Konoha." Kakashi's eyes widened even more before he narrowed them in anger. He had seen the child on a regular basis and could have been able to help him. The horrors he had seen Naruto suffer were the things that he had envisioned protecting him from, and he had done nothing. Kakashi looked around the room to see how his friends were handling the news. Guy, who normally wore a seemingly too bright smile on his face, was distorted into a mask of pure rage. His hands were fists just itching to pulverize the men responsible for what Naruto had gone through. Kurenai, who normally kept her emotions under control in the workplace, was on the curb of having a breakdown. She had been closer to Kushina than anyone, and had seen her as more of a mother figure. The thought of not being able to help the woman she admired most child was agonizing. Then it clicked in Kakashi's head. He spoke with barely controlled rage. The old Cage nodded sadly. "From what we can tell, Naruto was taken out of his home during the festival, beaten to a near-death state, which not only was the work of normal weapons, but also Katan justice, was then removed from the village and crucified for 2 days, where he most likely died and was taken away by some animal to eat. That did it." In seconds Kurenai was on the ground sobbing, mumbling about how she had failed her teacher. Guy went to comfort her, but one could see the tears dripping down his face. Kakashi just stood still in a state of shock after finding out the way to repay his sensei for his kindness was gone. A lone tear drifted down his unmasked eye. "I am sorry to tell you this," said the Hokage regaining their attention, "but it is obvious that some of our own shinobi were a part of this. Therefore we must make an example of this to anyone who tries to betray the leaf. You three will go discover who is responsible for this and make them pay dearly, in front of the entire village." Kakashi, Kurenai, and Guy all steeled their gaze, intent on bringing absolute hell to the men who had done this. "Make it gruesome," said the Hokage in a dark voice. "One must know the consequences of disobeying me, the Hokage, and their village. You are dismissed." The three were gone in an instant, trying to be the first to find the murderers so they could have first crack at them. It had been almost a week since he had left Konoha and Naruto felt great. As soon as they arrived in Yu, they had entered a department store, and after a long and tiring debate on whether or not orange was a proper color for a shinobi, had decided on a wardrobe. Naruto had chosen to go with a pair of black baggy pants, a dark orange muscle shirt with 2 shinobi-style boots. Reki could not completely make him give up his favorite color. When they went to counter, Naruto was a bit frightened. Who wouldn't be when for your entire life, anytime you had tried to buy some food or clothes, you would be chased out with a broom? Naruto looked up at his mentor who sent back a small smile before pushing the kid towards the desk. Gathering his courage, Naruto, in his new clothes, walked up to the cashier and said, "I would like to buy these clothes, cashier-san." The woman looked down at the small blonde in front of her before her eyes widened like dinner plates. In seconds she was around the table and glomping the poor child while screaming, "Kawaii!" As soon as Naruto realized what was happening to him, felt the two mounds pressed up against his cheeks and began to blush. This only made the girl squeeze harder at how adorable it was. Reki, who had been watching with an agape jaw, soon realized he had hit the goldmine of woman attractors. He smiled deviously as he thought of all the plans he would have in store for his young apprentice. 20 minutes later, after the woman had finally released Naruto when he was about to go unconscious from lack of air, they were paying for their purchases with a large discount. Reki and his student then went to a Pocky stand, and sat down on a bench, watching the families and traders' daily route. Nay, Reki, Naruto asked turning his whole body towards his sensei, what exactly are you going to be teaching me? Reki looked at the boys as he pondered his question, slowly chewing on his Pocky. What do you think it is like to be a shinobi? He asked finally, returning his gaze to the crowd. Naruto was surprised but chose not to speak as his teacher continued. A shinobi's life is full of death, danger and murder. We cannot avoid it, only learn to live with it. Reki spread his arms as to show the crowds of people in the square. We kill on a daily basis. I myself have killed hundreds of men and women, and my sensei even more than that. Naruto paled as he thought of all the blood. We kill, we must accept that, said Reki, still looking into the crowd, but we must also find a reason to do what we do. Something to help get us through the night. For some it is money, others family, but trust me kid, you will not survive long in this line of work if you cannot come up with an answer. So I ask you, Reki turned to face Naruto, why do you want to be a shinobi? Quote, Naruto was at a loss. Before, he would have quickly said to gain everyone's love and respect, but that was not the answer he wanted. Living the life he had, you learned very quickly that it takes a lot of work to create true bonds. But when the bonds are built, they are not easily broken. This was the reason that Naruto had always treasured his relationship with Jiji, the Ichirakas and now, Reki. Those people were more precious than any currency, and Naruto would put his life on the line. It was then Naruto had his answer. He took a deep breath, I want to protect my precious people. Reki just continued to stare at him, non-verbally telling him to continue. I know I don't have many right now, said Naruto as he looked up to the clear blue sky, but someday I will, and IW. And, no, I need to be strong enough to protect them at all costs. Reki smiled at his student's words, nice kid, really nice. Well, you aren't gonna get that strong sitting on your, said Reki as he stood up, time to start you on that path of yours, kid. Naruto gave Reki a grin, which he quickly mirrored as they set off to the canyon of the town. The outskirts of the village were very rocky and steep, but on the plateaus were wide, open green fields. Perfect for the training use of ninja, whose workout sessions would normally destroy the land Aru. Them. In the center of one of these plains was Reki, facing a giddy Naruto. This is it, thought Naruto, as he bit his tongue to keep from yelling in joy. This is the day I become a ninja. So what are we going to do? Maybe we start off with some high-powered justice. Maybe one that can turn a mountain to rubble, man that would be Sugo. Maybe a cool MPH. Naruto was silenced when Reki cupped his hand over the boy's mouth. Geez kid, why don't you just talk your enemies to death? That might work, said Reki as he rolled his eyes. Was I like this when A-sensei taught us? He grimaced at the thought. Do you even know what chakra is? Reki asked as he removed his hand from Naruto's mouth. Chakra. Naruto tilted his head in confusion. No idea what you're talking about. Reki sighed. This is going to be a long day. No Baka, chakra. In all essence, it is the source of a Justu's power. It is basically the combination of physical energy, which is in every living thing, and spiritual energy, which is the combination of a person's experience and training. In other words, no chakra, no jutsu. Reki looked at his student to see if he had gotten everything, which thankfully he had. Good thing this kid soaks up information like a sponge. Reki smirked. Before we can do anything, you have to learn to find your own chakra, said Reki as he formed the Ram sign. This is the Ram sign. It is a hand seal commonly utilized to mold chakra. All you have to do is find your chakra and release it. Remember, We can't move forward until you have mastered this. Naruto nodded before placing his hands in the Ram seal, and began to search for any form of energy within his body. You will feel a warm sensation when you find it. Don't be disappointed if you don't find it on your first TR, Reki started but was soon cut off by a large blast of energy. His eyes widened, and then quickly focused on Naruto. A large blue orb of chakra had amassed itself around the boy, but anyone could see the ever so often flashes of red that penetrated the blue. The orb of chakra soon dissipated however, and left a heavy breathing Naruto, smiling like a maniac. How was that? Naruto asked between breaths. Incredible, thought Reki as he continued to process what had just happened. Naruto has low Chunin level reserves, and he is only 6. If they continue to grow like that, imagine what kind of powerhouse he'll be when he becomes a genin. Single quote. Reki chuckled at his student's enthusiasm. Nice going kid, but this will probably be one of the easiest things for you. Jinchuriki generally have higher reserves than most people because the demon inside them is just one great big spirit, creating giant reserves for their containers. Meaning that most of the main exercises we are going to be doing will focus around control, rather than building up your reserves. Naruto frowned at this new information, but comforted himself with the thought of how quickly he had found his chakra. Now comes the fun part, Reki grinned as he cracked his knuckles. Naruto paled, he was not looking forward to the next part of his training. Every morning at sunrise you will wake up and do 25 push-ups, 25 sit-ups, 100 punches for each arm and 100 kicks for each leg. Finally, you will then run for 2 miles before coming to me for chakra control and other drills. Naruto gaped, are you insane? There is no way I will be able to do all that. Well, Reki's grin grew more sadistic. He put his hand on the ground where a large seal area appeared before calling out, Kuchiyos no Jutsu. There was a puff of smoke, and out came a large orange fox, easily the size of a horse. I could always have this guy chase you while you did your warm-ups. As if on cue, the fox started to growl and grind his teeth. Needless to say, Naruto had already started. This continued for the next year. Every week or so Reki would up the regiment. His body, which was once malnourished and weak, was now strong and toned. He had grown a total of 3 inches after Reki had forced him to stop his all-ramen diet, standing well above the other 7-year-olds. After lots of persuasion on Naruto's part, Reki had also begun his taijutsu training in his personal style, the Katsune no Suteru, a fighting form of his own invention that utilized feints and speed to deliver fatal blows to the enemy. Though he only knew the basic katas, Reki said that his body was perfectly built for the style of fighting. Naruto had also begun to wear weights. After Reki had discovered that Naruto's body quickly adapted to strain, had begun to add more weight twice a week. Currently he was on a total of 16 kilos per arm, 20 kilos on each legs, and 30 around his torso. His speed now with his weights was that of a seasoned genin, but when removed could match mid-chunin ranked speeds. Though Naruto was not as skilled in control as his other focuses of training, they were good for someone his age. Reki had started him off on using his chakra to keep a blade of grass straight up on his finger. Though it was difficult, with lots of time and sweat, Naruto had managed to get one blade of grass to stand on the tip of his index finger. But, being the slave driver he was, Reki would not move on until it was second nature. After a month, when Naruto was able to keep 2 blades of grass straight up on all 10 fingers, Reki had shown him wall climbing, which after the control exercises he had been doing was a piece of cake. That was until Reki had him run up and down the wall for hours on end while he threw blunted kunai at him. Reki told Naruto that it served 3 purposes. The first was to heighten his control over his chakra, the second was to improve his evasion on the battlefield, and third was that it was real. Entertaining. When not training, Reki and Naruto were normally on the road, traveling from country to country, mostly staying out of Konoha, Iwa, and Suna territory. While on the road, the two worked on observation and education. Reki would have Naruto walk through a group of people, then ask him what he had learned. At first Naruto was confused as to the point of this training before Reki explained that spotting the smallest irregularity in someone's appearance or stature could quickly tip you off and help you avoid trouble. Reki seemed to value the blonde's education greatly as he constantly talked to him about geography, psychology, mathematics, human anatomy, politics, a session which Reki liked to call modified history Reki style, which only talked about great leaders and battle strategies, and Naruto's favor. Its subject, Fuinjutsu. Sealing seemed to be an area of specialty for the blonde. He had seen Reki seal some supplies into a scroll he had asked about it. Reki told him that sealing was a rare and complex art, few people knew how to do it properly and was a commonly sought out trade in the ninja world. He went on to explain that unlike Genjutsu or Ninjutsu, Fuinjutsu had almost no limitations. All it required was skill and creativity. At the next town, Naruto had gone into the local library and read all the books he could about sealing. Discovering that it required very neat handwriting, he began to work on his own until everything he wrote was crisp and clean. He had later that day made his first sealing scroll, which surprised him, because in the books Naruto had checked out, it had said that the art of Fuinjutsu took years to early start, and he had done it in a week. When he asked Reki about it, he just chuckled then said something like father like son. Unfortunately, before Naruto could clarify what that meant, Reki told him that they were going out for ramen to celebrate, which silenced all other thoughts in the blonde's mind. Today, after Naruto had finished his extended warm-up of 300 push-ups, 300 sit-ups, 500 punches with each arm and leg, and his 15-mile run, he walked up to Reki only to see a piece of blank paper in his hand. "What are we doing today, Iromasuta?" Reki sighed. Over the past year, Naruto had learned of Reki's high interests in the brothels, red light districts, and even the beautiful woman who happened to walk by in every town. Therefore, Naruto saw it deserving to call him Iromasuta, because he was pervy, and Reki had Naruto walk down the streets or in front the bathhouses to attract all of the women who just loved to touch his adorable whiskers. "Quiet kid, today we start your ninjutsu training. Now this doesn't mean that we are done with your other studies, only that we will be focusing a majority of our time on ninjutsu because of your gigantic reserves." Naruto nodded with a blank expression on his face. During their trip, one of the things that Reki had drilled into Naruto's head was the difference between work and leisure. While on his days off or breaks Naruto was his normal happy-go-lucky, ramen-loving self, as soon as the training began, he as a mask of concentration and tranquility. Reki held up the piece of paper. "This is chakra paper," he said as he waved it around. "By channeling your chakra into it, you can see what type of chakra nature you have. If it burns, you have Katan. If it gets cut, you have Futon. If it crinkles, it is Raten. Doten, it turns to dust, and Suten, it dampens." Reki handed the paper to Naruto, who quickly started to channel chakra into it. The results caused both student and teacher's eyes to widen in shock. The paper had split in half, and while one side quickly went up in flames, the other was crinkled to a ball that dropped on the floor. Was that supposed to happen?" Naruto asked as he picked up and examined the paper ball. Reki didn't say anything but quickly put another slip of chakra paper into his hand and said, "Again." Naruto pushed chakra into the paper, and just like before, it split in half with one half burning to AC crisp, while the other crumpled into a ball. Reki just stared at Naruto, silently contemplating the situation as he either rubbed his chin. After a few minutes, Reki sighed before saying, "You are just a bunch of surprises, aren't you, kid? You have 3 chakra elements, Futon, Raten, and Katan. Now you have a very high affinity towards your Raten and Katan affinities." Naruto tilted his head, and, "So?" Reki smacked his pupil. "Baka, most jonin only have 2 elements after years of training. To see 2 affinities in a child is rare. And 3 is close to impossible." Reki began to frown. "This also brings up the question of what the QB is doing inside of your body." Naruto began to get worried. Anytime they talked about the fox, he got worried. How could he not when the thing had been the cause of all the pain he had experienced? "So what are we going to do about it?" "Not we, kid, you," Reki said as looked up at the clouds, a quirk he picked up when he was debating with himself on an important matter. He looked back down at his shocked student, before, in a blur of speed, moved behind his student. "You're gonna have to deal with it in him yourself." Before Naruto could get another word in, Reki delivered a quick chop to his troika, knocking him out cold. Reki looked at his unconscious student before picking him up and slowly placing him against a nearby tree. Hope the kid and the fur ball get along, Reki muttered to himself, or this is just going to be a huge waste of time. The first thing that Naruto awoke to was the sound of dripping water. Drip, drip, drip. When he opened his eyes, he could see that he was no longer in the green field he was this morning. He now lay in a pool of cold, murky water close to a foot deep. As he picked himself up from the floor, he realized that none of his clothes were wet, meaning that either this was a Genjutsu, or he was somewhere else. As his eyes adjusted to the light of the tunnel, he could see his surroundings more clearly. Surrounding him were many old rusted walls with small pipes that ran in every direction. While in the smaller pipes, a small blue tint could be seen, the larger and more noticeable pipes seemed to pulsate a crimson light as it was pumped through. Deciding that he should find way out of here, Naruto headed down the long corridor, making sure to keep the noise to a minimum. He had no idea where he was or how he had gotten there. The last thing he remembered was Reki knocking him out, but he wouldn't leave him in a place like this, right? And what was that about? Deal with him yourself, crap. How the hell was he going to talk to a giant chakra monster in his stomach? Naruto stopped when he heard noise. Closer observation identified it as heavy breathing. As Naruto began to follow the sounds, they became louder and heavier, and the room temperature seemed to skyrocket. At the end of the corridor was a room shining the same crimson light he had seen running through the pipes. When Naruto peeked into the room he gasped. Inside was a colossal cage, with great iron bars that fell down from the ceiling. Across the center of the bars was a paper tag with the kanji, seal, written on it. Naruto knew what this room was. This was a seal, this was the Shikafuin, but more importantly, this was where the Kyuubi lived. Naruto tried to get a glimpse of what was in the cage, but could not see far enough in the eerie light. Come closer, a small child's voice giggled. Naruto reluctantly stepped forward. You're gonna have to get closer than that, the voice said again, but this time with a laugh. Okay, this is scaring the shit out of me, though Naruto as he was sweating bullets. Either a small child had somehow gotten locked in here too, or it was the fox trying to play games with him. Naruto took a deep breath, calming his nerves, before speaking in a steady voice, Enough Kyuubi, I know it's you. Or you're no fun. The voice started to lower and become more malevolent, just a couple more steps and I could have gotten a meal. But oh well, I guess if you did fall for that then you would be a pitiful choice as my container. The nonchalance of the tone made Naruto flinch. How can he talk so calmly about eating someone? A large eye opened inside the darkness of the cage. The iris was a bloody crimson, while the pupil was a slit. Why don't we do this the old-fashioned way? Kyuubi smiled, showing off his set of sharp canines. How about you come here and run around for a bit in my cage? I always did enjoy a good chase. Maybe some other time, Naruto spoke as he tightened his fists to stop him from running straight at Th. Eating that had been the cause of all his pain. I need some answers, and unfortunately you are the one who has them. The Biju chuckled. My kid, I thought you had learned that you had to rely on yourself for answers. Or at least that is what you should have learned from the geezer. Naruto stayed silent as Kyuubi continued. How did it feel to learn that you had been lied to by Gigi? I really don't have to ask because I saw it for myself. The hate, the feeling of betrayal, the thirst for revenge. Shut up, Naruto muttered, a shadow across his eyes. The Kyuubi looked at him in mock confusion. Say something kid, you will have to speak up. I said shut you p. Naruto yelled at the giant kitsune. Never blame Gigi because it is all your fault. If you didn't attack the village, I might have had a family, people would not have hurt me. Do you have any idea what kind of damage you have done? You stupid foe, but Naruto was cut off by a massive dose of killer intent. Watch your tongue boy, Kyuubi hissed, his full-tailed form appearing. I merely stated what I saw, no need to get defensive about it. Also I never hurt you, the village's own fear and misguided hate did. Naruto seemed to widen at the fox's point of view. On the contrary, the fox spoke, I was the one who healed your body from those attacks. If anything you should be thanking me for not allowing you to die for 6 years. Naruto took a couple deep breaths to disperse his anger. Thank you, he finally said, though a bit forced, but we still have some things to discuss. QB grinned at his victory before nodding the boy to continue. Where are we? He asked first as he turned to look again at the Seaver. I see no harm in telling you that, the QB mused. This is called a mindscape, a section of your mind that the seal has constructed to help us communicate. It may look like a dump, but I blame the villagers' treatment, causing you to grow up with a bastardized vision of how the world is. A large tail pointed at one of the large pipes on the ceiling. These pipes have both your small and minuscule chakra, and my overall superior chakra. From what I can tell, the seal has been siphoning off my own chakra and assimilating it with your own supply, making it continuously grow larger. Naruto nodded as he processed the fox's answer. So eventually, my reserves will merge with the rest of yours, and you will disappear. He asked hopefully. The Katsune scoffed, Kit, even if I was forcing my chakra through the seal constantly, you would not live long enough to completely merge. In other words, you're stuck with me until you die. So you still have some control of your chakra? Questioned Naruto. I'm surprised that the seal would allow that. QB grew a prideful smile. No power is absolute, Kit. The seal could not take away my entire reserve on threat of also moving some of my mind along with it. But honestly, my traits is still entering your body as we speak. Naruto's eyes widened. Wait. Your thoughts are entering my mind right now. How do I get you out? I don't want to begin thinking that I am a demon fox. He spoke worriedly. No Baka, traits, likes or dislikes, strengths and weaknesses, even affinities, QB calmly explained. For example, your whiskers and your love of ramen. When the stuff first came out, I would henge into a human so I could eat the delicious meal all day, the fox sighed Dre. Emilian began to stare off into nothingness. Is this what I look like when I think about ramen? Naruto thought as he stared at the Lord of all Demons giggle as he thought about ramen. And my 3 affinities? Naruto asked, trying to call the Biju back to reality. QB shook off his ramen-induced dream. More like 2. Seeing Naruto's confused expression, he continued, if I had not been part of your body, your affinity would have mostly likely been futon, but seeing as we are stuck together, my affinities are slowly eradicating your original element and might mix to form my Kekkei Genkai. Might? Naruto asked, dreading what he knew was going to come next. QB grinned at the blonde child in front of his cage. Yes, might. It all depends on what happens today. Naruto took a couple more forced breaths before asking, alright, the whole deal with the devil kind of thing. So what do you have in mind? Simple, Kit. I give you my Kekkei Genkai and train you how to use it in my own chakra, and you help me get what I want. And what do you want exactly? Naruto was wondering what the most powerful Biju in the world could want. Well, truthfully, what I want is to be set free from this abysmal cage, QB said offhandedly. Naruto was about to object when the fox continued, but from careful examination of the seal, setting me free would also kill me. So I will go with the 2 next best things, have the feelings of what it is like outdoors again, and to watch the man responsible for all this suffer a painful and horrible death. Naruto quirked his eyebrow. How can you watch the Yondaime suffer? He is already dead. The temperature of the room seemed to change from blazing heat to sub-zero. When QB spoke, his voice was harsh and cold. The Yondaime may be responsible for sealing me, but the person who tricked me into attacking that pitiful village is still alive, and I won't rest until I can use his spine as a toothpick. Naruto gulped. If there is someone who was strong enough to manipulate the QB, why would he have him try to destroy the leaf? Alright, the revenge part one can help with. If someone did force you to attack the leaf, then he is the reason for my horrible childhood, but how do you plan on helping you feel the outside again? The room temperature resumed its previous unbearable temperature and QB spoke as if nothing had happened. Well, that's easy. All you have to do is rip off a corner of the seal. What? Screamed Naruto. But even if I made the smallest tear in that seal, the rest would slowly fall apart, causing you to be released. Geez, relax, Kit, the QB said, a large sweat drop coming down his head. Besides, the Forza seal has so many backups, that ripping off a little piece will barely weaken the cage. Tell you what, since I am feeling so generous today, I will sweeten the deal. I will throw in telling you about my previous container. Naruto adopted a confused expression, still slightly against the idea of altering the seal. Why would I want to know that? It might be better if I tell you her name first, the fox mused as he pretended to think. Her name was Uzumaki Kushina, or what you would have called her, Ka-san. Naruto's eyes grew to the size of dinner plates. Why, you mean she was my moo mother? Naruto was barely able to keep the tears of joy of discovering his parentage under control. Yes, Kit, your mother, the Kyuubi spoke in a calm voice, and I am giving you the opportunity to get to know her. She may be gone, but I have a stockpile of memories of her. That is, if you want to know, the Kyuubi baited. Wiping all doubt from his mind, Naruto appeared in front of the seal. How much should I rip off? The Kyuubi gave a toothy grin at the boy's enthusiasm. About the size of your thumb, but you might want to brace yourself. When Naruto ripped the piece of paper, at first he felt nothing, but that quickly when red chakra engulfed him, spreading pain throughout his entire body. Wow, what is this? Naruto hissed. That is why I told you to brace yourself. The Kyuubi chided the blonde. I might as well finish my part off. The deal, Kushina was exactly like you. Brash, stubborn, loud, and obnoxious, the self-named queen of pranks. In truth, the only difference I see between yours and her personality is that while you favor orange, she favored red. Though Naruto was in a great deal of pain, he allowed a small smile to cross his face. Thank you, Kyuubi-san. Those were his last words as he drifted off into dreamless sleep, leaving a stunned Kyuubi. Kyuubi-san, huh? The fox chuckled to himself. The kid may have promise after all. The Kyuubi then left to begin his surprise to the kid when he woke up. Your child will not be weak, Kushina-san. I owe you that much. When Naru